we have come here together to share our life story. And along with that, we will be sharing certain principles that we believe is vital for a relationship, for a marriage. And let's get going.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We're all set with our drinks.
Yes, we have our
Coffee.
coffee.
Oh my. Yeah, it's our favorite drink to give us energy, to inspire our thoughts, to it says that figs are good for the brain, even neurotransmitters to grow, so we need
Yeah,
those.
I was shocked when you when you did some research and it helps for brain. I didn't know about that. Well,
And it says that even figs are like blueberries in antioxidants. So,
mm,
anyways,
good, good. So, first question I will ask you. Where did you grow up and what are some things that you developed growing up knowing that this is what I want to envision or this is what I want to have in a marriage and this is what I envision me being a wife?
all right, good question. Um, so actually, I was born here in the States, in California, but it was always growing up hard to say where exactly I'm from because I have an accent here, I have an
Yeah.
accent everywhere I go, and you always help me out even with my English, even though you're from India and I'm American. So that's kind of weird, but I guess that's how it is when um, you just don't know where you're from.
That happens to me too because when people ask me where are you from, especially in the US, where are you from? I don't know which one to say because when I say where the state I am from, let's say Oregon or Virginia, no, originally where are you from? Then when people ask where are you from and I say I'm from India, they're like, no, right now where are you?
Yeah, so I guess we both have that in common.
Yeah, yeah.
People never truly, I mean, they want to know because of an accent or how you look where you come from. But then it's hard if you say, well, I was born in California. Oh, but you don't sound. So I was born there, but I was born to a German mother and a multicultural father with a little bit of everything. So I am a mixed, and we always spoke Spanish at home. So until I was 5, I was here in the States, and then we moved to Argentina, and that's where I grew up. So I felt for many years I was from Argentina. But my accent in Spanish is more Colombian and a mix of everything, so they don't think I'm from there. So, but I love the culture in South America. And growing up in that culture was like family was a priority and just connecting with friends and just social life and just the wives caring for their husbands. I did see many times that husbands would want to be served too much in the Hispanic culture. So they were like treating the wife more as a servant sometimes, or the wives gave too much of them that kind of made them handicaps. They couldn't even
Mm,
get something from the table and serve on their plate because the wife had to do it.
mm,
And that was not exactly in my home.
mm,
So we had a little bit of differences there. Um, so growing up, I was inspired with family life, with kids. I loved kids, and since little, I was like, I don't want to play with dolls. I just want to take care of real babies. So any mom that had a baby, I would go and be like, do you need help taking care of your baby? And one time I remember this tiny, weeks-old baby that a family had adopted. Beautiful girl. I was holding her, and I was like, oh, the day I would have my baby, it's gonna be like the real doll, like the real game. So, since very little, I imagine I'll have a family when I'm 20, 21, like my parents, I'll get married and I'll have my babies, and it's just gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be like this love and understanding and family time, eating in the meal times together and just talking and having a good family.
mm,
But later on, when I was a teenager, I started to hear that many wives were tired of their husbands and
mm,
kind of like annoyed by them, and that actually some of them even felt abused and misused. And I started to feel a little scared. I was like, I want to have a family, but I don't want to be abused, misused, and like be treated like I'm inferior or just an object. And so that started to create some fears inside of me from everything I would hear from wives. And so I yearned for a good family, but I just wasn't sure how that would look like because I didn't really see happy wives. And that scared me a little. And so when I was in that era, I got to two books that really helped me, that maybe another time we'll share more, but those books really gave me a vision of a good family and what God desires. And I was like, I want this. And I started praying when I was 14. God, give me a husband that wants your ways, that is not selfish and self-centered, that wants your ways more than his own. And I started to pray and write my prayers and pray for that future person God would bring me one day. And I was inspired for a dream I saw in the book of and God's heart's dream for marriage, but that I did not see it anywhere. So I was like, this is kind of weird. But I prayed for it and I hoped for it. And so that's what I envisioned, a family that love was supreme, that God was first, that nature and family were before work and whatever else, that there was respect and that there was also healthy boundaries and mindset. But God had a lot to teach me first because definitely I got to my 20s and I was not married with that type of family. But how was it for you, sweetie, growing up?
Before going to that, I have another question for you, and then
Okay.
I'll share about mine. What made it so bad that women or the wives felt that they were being ill-treated or abused by the husbands? What actually caused it? Do you have any idea as to why?
I know a couple things. One sometimes was the indifference. Wives felt the husbands were there, but they were not friends necessarily with the husbands. The husbands would demand and would not really be caring about them, but more about themselves. So they wouldn't have that love, that mutual love. They would be the cooks, the housekeepers, caring, but then the husbands would always be expecting more and not caring for their hearts, which is, now that we're married, it's a work that has to be,
From both ends.
yes,
Yeah.
learned and developed. So that was one thing I saw in wives, and I was like 14 at that time. So I couldn't understand everything, but I would understand, sometimes I felt alone or that the husbands were not really caring for them, but then they wanted to go to bed and just do their thing whenever they wanted, no matter if wives had headaches, if they felt tired, if they had a burdensome day, that wouldn't be in the equation. It was like, we want this and this is part of the duty. So many of them at that point felt abused because it's like, we don't have that connection with them, but they are demanding things. And so many wives, I would hear that. And as a young girl, I was like, that's kind of scary. That's kind of weird. That's kind of like, it doesn't look or sound like love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was very confusing. And I started to pray, God, I don't want a husband like that. Like, if that's marriage, I don't even know if I want to get married. But I know you say it's different. It's all. So I was confused with what I saw, what I heard, and what God said. And I just didn't know if that existed or it was possible in this earth.
Wow. Some things to learn, when we look at other people's lives, you can learn both ways, whether what to do and what not to do, what are
Yeah.
good for marriages and what are not good for marriages.
And one more thing I would add, that sometimes I would also be like, I don't want to be like that as a wife. It's a lot of complaining or talking about everything, like more negative mindset. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be putting my husband down and treating like he's always, inferior. And so that really made me think, like, will I end up like this? So that was in the culture as I was growing up. It's a very common culture Hispanically, but maybe it's a worldwide as well scenario, that wives are dissatisfied and they just talk about all their troubles and how they feel in a frustrated diminishing way towards the husbands, sometimes even in front of them. And I was like, how would they feel? And I don't want to be a wife like that. Like, how would the husband feel? So it's like a dynamic that also feeds on dysfunctionality and doesn't breed anything good.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, of course, I was born and raised in India. I came to the US in 2014. So I was there for several years, more than 2 decades, and I grew up with Indian culture, but I did watch a lot of Hollywood movies, so my imagination was all corrupted because a lot of Indians have the mindset that American girls or anyone outside the country are all free, you can do whatever you want. It is all like friends with benefits and all that stuff. So, in a way, it looked fine because it is American culture, Hollywood people, not the Indians. But then I started seeing the change of culture in India as well. But because I was raised in a single parent home, my father was not there. He left us even before I was born. So we, both my brother and I, we were raised by my mom. And so we had certain values that were instilled in us, and our mom would teach us different things as to how we have to be, and how we have to respect women and very critical things that she would talk to us to help us understand. And along with it, I did learn about several things. My first thing when I was growing up was I don't want to have a marriage where there is going to be constant fights or misunderstandings. So I was very clear that in my marriage, in my relationship, there is going to be no issues, but even if the issues arise, we will have the space, we will be mature enough to discuss about it. We can talk about it, reason together, than to have fight always, like you doing this and I doing that, whatever, whatnot. So I was very clear about that. Another thing that I was dreaming, this is more of a wish for me, was to marry a German. So I don't know how all of that came about, but I was really interested in Germany, German related stuff. Even my favorite dessert is, what is it called? Black Forest, you know. so, so I was really interested in those kind of stuff. And then I developed an interest for marrying a German woman. And the
Did
rest
you
is
know
history.
did you know what German ladies are like, or you just
Honestly,
had a dream with Germany as a whole?
I had a dream with Germany as a whole, and German Girl was along with that, was part of it. But any time I shared it with people, especially outsiders from India, they would always say, "Why Germans? Germans are very rude people. They are mean, this and that." So that did kind of make me like, should I really look or wait for a German girl? But as I learned more about God, how He functions, and all of that, God knows who will best fit me. Even if I have a desire to marry a German girl, maybe He was the one who put the desire in me. I didn't
I
realize
guess.
that. So that happened. And then going along the lines that what you were sharing with the Hispanic wives, I did notice when I came to the US in 2014, I remember I went to a gathering where there were like 4 or 5 wives that were talking really bad about the husbands. Oh, my husband is really dumb, and this and that. And they were really talking openly and laughing about it. Coming from India, that was more of an insult for husbands. And thinking about those things, I was very clear like, I'm not going to marry a girl that is going to insult me like that. In fact, I know it has become a very common thing these days. Even the young girls, I saw a reel recently telling her boyfriend, "That is not the one, you idiot. This is the one." You know, those are some things that are very disrespectful as far as I am concerned about it. And I really did not expect, or I wasn't looking for a girl that would talk to me like that. And neither am I going to talk to my girlfriend or wife like that, because for me it was very demeaning. So a lot of things definitely was involved in developing my interest for a girl, and also in development of how I should be, how intentional I have to be, so that it can be a smoother relationship, smoother marriage, where I'm not dependent on the wife and the wife is not dependent on me. We both work alongside with each other. And I did, I hopefully developed certain qualities that have been helpful in such a way that it is not a burden to you, but to work with each other. So that's my a little bit of my past.
That's beautiful, and I will forever be grateful to your mamu because she instilled in you principles that were very huge. And how was it for you having a single mom, not having a dad? How did you develop? What would you say were, besides your mom, other things that really helped you to develop certain qualities as a gentleman, as to be a future husband one day? Anything you can pinpoint to?
So I will start off with my young age, where when I was growing up I would see all these fathers playing with their children, their sons. They drop them off at their school, they come to pick them up, and then they would play cricket with the children. And I had that longing. I'm like, where is my dad? Why am I not able to play with my dad or my brother? So I did have that longing, and that actually triggered that when I marry and have children, I want to be there for my children. Not just have children and disappear from their lives, because I know I went through how terrible it was, and I didn't want my children to go through that. So that is one thing. But then with marriages, I have seen few marriages that have really impressed me, where husband and wife are always together doing things together, not just hi honey, I'm going to work, and then come back, hi honey, I'm here, and then just do their work. No, they were really intentionally working things together. And thankfully, I have encountered few good marriages where the husband and wife were more friends than just husband and wives. And also the help that the husband would do. Because even in Indian culture, similar to Hispanic culture, the husbands are usually spoiled by the wives. The husbands are usually fed. They are brought the food and all those things that happen. I don't know how is the culture right now in India, but while I was growing up, that is how it was. And which also seemed like a good culture, but for me, it is something that different, because I want my wife to be with me, to sit with me and eat, not just serve me and make sure everyone is served. And then, it was a little different. I had a little different mindset compared to the regular Indian mindset.
Definitely, we're a mixed breed there in your mindset.
Yeah, yeah. And so the next question would be, what are some things that you learned from your parents that you could implement in your life for betterment of it?
Well, definitely from my mom, I learned to be giving, to give without necessarily expecting anything in return, to just give, and serve the family. And family for her was priority. She left even her work at a time that their marriage didn't, my dad didn't have a very good stable job. But she left it after 1 year that I was born and taken care of by another nanny with a bunch of kids. She was like, I don't want my girl to be raised by someone else. And so she gave even her job, that was a good paying job with good benefits, she left that for her children. And until we went to school per se later on in life when we were more, because she even later on decided to homeschool us and to do a lot of things out of her comfort zone for us as her children. So she put us first. And even though we never grew up with a lot, we would go to thrift stores all the time. We never bought new furniture. We just would buy from thrift stores, people that would give away, even sometimes places here in the States, people throw a lot of things, and you can even go to dumpsters and find good things that people throw, or people put a couch out in their yard for free. And so that's how I grew up, with just free stuff, given stuff, big stuff that we would fix. So I never really had new clothes. It was more thrift store and free stuff that we would fix so it would fit us, because sometimes like the shirts and the pants and the skirts were big, so we had to adjust it. So we didn't have a lot, but we had our mom always there. And through all her challenges, she put her whole heart into making healthy meals, going above and beyond. She would spend, I think, half the day in the kitchen, like many hours, from cooking, like prepping, cooking, and cleaning. And then she involved us a lot in doing house chores. So we would divide the responsibilities of cooking, of cleaning, of arranging, of everything. And so I became, since very little, friends with my mom. And she remembers since I was like 4 or 2 that I would be like, oh, that I wanted to vacuum with her. And she thought like, oh, this is not really a help. But then she was like, one day I will want her help, so let me allow her to be part of the things, even though she's more of a burden, but one day she'll be a help. So since I can remember, I was beside my mom cooking in the kitchen, and we were like a team that we didn't even have to speak. We kind of just had our little dance in the kitchen, prepping lunch every day. So I think from her, I learned to give without expecting, and to just do things for the family, to be that my priority as well. And I've seen how much of that has influenced me, because yes, I love to study. Yes, I love to also be good at work. And I can be goal and work oriented if I don't put limits. And you've seen it sometimes. I get into something and I want to finish, and it would go until 9 p.m. And so if I'm not careful, I can be to that other type of lady that is all goal oriented. But I've seen the value of family, and through my mom's example, I know I want that. So even though sometimes I'm torn into two directions because of whatever reasons, I know I want my family first, because it makes a huge difference to know you come and you have that warmth and that love and that homemade meals and that, clean home and organized life. And yeah, I learned a lot from her. She was very clean, very organized, very good with finances. Well, that's a big one. Can you tell me?
Absolutely.
Can you tell me what she taught me?
Saving.
Saving, and that something is not good.
Oh, getting into debts.
Yes. So that she drilled it even into my brother that was not a saver. He loved to spend. I was a saver. I loved to collect and just add up everything I got. And so I guess that was part genetic and part learned. But then she really drilled in us debts, unless it's, a very well-planned type of loan or buying a house or something. You do not buy things that are outside of your budget. And you use credit cards like cash, not like credit. And that has helped our marriage, definitely, to have that mindset and to not be in debt. So anyways, those are just some of the things that my mom instilled, and just spirituality, praying with us, teaching us how to have our connection with God, and praying with us when we were struggling spiritually growing up. She would be vulnerable to share her struggles and be like, I've gone through that as well, and encouraging and very loving through that. So she was a good friend, and she put her heart fully, and those were the good things that I would say from my mom. So from some things I learned from my dad was that he always inspired us to think outside the box. He was not restricted by others' opinions or ways of doing things. He always had was inventing and just having ideas and plans and writing. And so he was very creative in many ways, and he instilled that in us. So to think outside the box, to go for dreams, like think, have an idea, and just go for it, try it. And so he was.
I know his favorite phrase is "go for it." So
Yes.
I can
I guess
already
that's his
see it.
motto in life. Go for it, like try it, and very, enthusiastic and passionate about our dreams, our visions. He was like, "Yes, and you can do this and that." So that was my dad, and that was something positive I learned from him, to encourage others. I think he's really an encourager. That's one of his gifts. And so encouragement, thinking outside the box, and then he would always as well encourage us, both my brother and I growing up. Don't listen to what people say. Don't worry about their thoughts. Like, be confident in who you are. Don't just get discouraged when someone says something, bullies you, or makes fun. Just be confident. And that was something my grandfather instilled in him, and he instilled in us, which was a great blessing, so that you felt confident. You have there a cheerleader, your dad, and then him saying, don't give up and keep going and think outside the box. And so that was my dad. Those were some things that really I can remember, and till today he is doing that. So
I can definitely testify for that. He's been encouraging me a lot as well. Like when we first got introduced to each other, I shared some of my projects in terms of the business, and he was coming up with his ideas as to how it can help my business grow. So
yeah.
I can definitely see how it has impacted both you and your brother in terms of growing and becoming more stronger in what you're developing.
And really, having a dad that stands behind you and thinks the world of even something you're not so sure about gives you courage. If my dad is all for it and sees the potential, then you have something to, some security and some encouragement. So yeah. And how about you, sweetie? How was it for you? Some things that you learned from your mom?
With my mom, my brother and I, we learned a lot of faith journey. Our lives growing up throughout, it was about faith. We saw a lot of miracles that God did. Of course, we grew up in a very poor family, but we never went hungry. We never went without anything that we needed. We always had all the things that we needed. So that was one thing that I learned from my childhood. Another thing is having family worship. And I can definitely say that it has been a very powerful impact and a journey in my life, because every evening, my brother, myself, and my mom, we will have a family worship, and we will sing couple songs, we will pray. So that has become part of our life, where I think even now we do that as a couple, as a family, have our family worship, and that is very important. That is very important in our lives, so that we are always united together. Because many families I've noticed, like the brothers, they have issues, or siblings have issues, they separate, they don't talk for years. I know a guy from my high school who did not talk to his brother for at least 3 years
Wow.
in the same house. They never spoke with each other for 3 years. Thankfully, that was not my experience with my brother. We both were really connected well, and that is all thanks to God, because when we have a family worship, when we are united with God, we will be united together in person as well.
Amen. Until now, you have a strong connection with your brother.
Yes, absolutely. I try to talk to him at least once or twice a week.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, major things our parents left us, good things to learn from and to keep implementing and to make it our own. Not just that those were our parents' good things, but what are things we can develop and even grow more now in our life, in our
Yes.
little family.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that.
So, this has been part of our story, a little snippet into our life, our childhood, and what things impacted us positively, what things we were like maybe afraid of, but what God has given us. We're so grateful for marriage. We think is
Absolutely.
the best gift God can give to human beings when He is part of it. It can be so beautiful. So, we're so passionate about this. We're like, especially for me, as I said, I didn't see many examples or passionate people in marriage. And so now we have a burden to encourage young people that we don't have to be afraid, but we can know what to look for. We can be encouraged. So if you are considering a relationship, wanting to get into one, or starting marriage, we want to share part of our journey, the things we're learning, challenges we face, and how God helps us in those different areas and encourage others. So thank you for joining us.
And don't forget to like and also share it with people that you believe would be benefited from this podcast. And also don't forget to subscribe so that you'll be able to learn and follow our journey, and hopefully you'll be blessed by it. Name of the podcast is Happily Ever After, because happily ever after is not just a dream phrase that we need to say. It can really happen. It can come to reality. And that can come to reality only when we two work together, when you both work together. As each and every couple work together intentionally, we can have an happily ever after.
Yay.
See you soon.